welcome back to Retail Riches. I'm your host, Christian, and today I got a special guest, Tim Vitale. Make sure I put the last name in there. I don't want anybody getting confused here. But yeah, so I got Tim here, and he's done an enormous amount of multifamily over the last, what's it been, 2 years?
Today is September 27th, so it's been 2 years and 5 days.
Wow, awesome. And you're at, you just cracked $100 million?
It's probably a little shy of $100 million. It's probably like in the mid-90 range, about 850 doors, and got another 356 under contract, and we're actually closing a 25 unit next Friday, so 356 plus 25, so whatever that comes out to be.
Yeah.
I don't do math in my head.
Not that quick. Not on camera.
Excel does my math for me nowadays.
Nice. Well, I'm going to have Tim take us back to history. Tell us a little bit about his high school experience and how he transitioned from high school into college and kind of what his plan was for his life at that point.
Yeah, so I grew up in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and I went to Colby Cathedral High School, which is in downtown Bridgeport. I didn't really fit in there. I kind of stuck out like a little bit of a sore thumb, and I never loved living in Connecticut, but in high school was an honors student, went to a Catholic private school. Not really much to write home about that. I mean, big into cars, but, I was a big Volkswagen Audi guy, and I worked a lot because I wanted to buy parts for my cars. So I never really, partied a whole lot until I went to college. But, for my high school days specifically, it was all about going to class and then going to work afterwards so I can work on my car at nighttime.
Where'd you work?
My very first job, I was a dishwasher for, it was called Ludlow Homes in Fairfield, Connecticut. That was, like a retirement, like assisted living facility.
Okay.
So me and all my buddies, we all worked in the kitchen. And we had a lot of fun with it because we'd have this big boom box and we were playing like techno music as loud as it possibly went. And we would make it a race to see how fast we could. It was called stripping the trucks, where you're taking all like the used plates and everything and you're putting them through the dishwasher machine and organizing it and everything. So we make it a game to see how fast we can strip the trucks and finish our jobs so we can sit around and do nothing.
Oh, that's awesome. But that's life of an entrepreneur.
Yeah, right. I coming back to that now that you've kind of brought it up and it's jogged some memories. It was I've always been the guy that try to find the easiest way to do the hardest thing. I'm inherently lazy. I know that, so I always try to find the easiest way to do a hard job because I don't want to do it all the time.
Yeah.
But then, I worked there. I worked in Dairy Queen. I had an internship at Sikorsky Aircraft. That's what kind of sent me down like the financial accounting route in college. And yeah, that's it.
Okay. Yeah. And so where do you went to college, correct me if I'm wrong, in Wilmington?
Yeah, University of North Carolina at Wilmington. So it's part of the UNC family, but the branches in Wilmington, they have like UNC Pembroke, Greensboro, Charlotte, Wilmington, Greenville. I mean, there's a ton of different ones. So there's quite a few, but Wilmington's on the coast of North Carolina, about an hour north of Myrtle Beach. So we live on the beach, and my school didn't have a football team, but we did have a surf team. Yeah. So everybody lived at the beach, and life's just a little different at the beach, and I love it. I prefer it.
Yeah. I mean, it kept you around.
Well, we actually left Wilmington. We left Wilmington, moved up to New York to follow my now wife. She was my girlfriend at the time. Followed her up to Manhattan. Lived in Manhattan for 2 years, and then moved down to Charlotte for 6.5 years. Lived in Charlotte for 6.5 years, and then when I quit my day job, my W-2 job, 2 years ago, September 22nd, 2 years ago, I gave my notice in. Danielle got us an apartment that we rented. We sold our house. We had built a brand new house. We sold everything that we had, all my tools and, everything. We liquidated literally everything. We went from a 3,000 square foot house to a 1,100 square foot apartment with a 90-pound golden retriever. So it was cramped for a little while. But that was the moment that we moved back to Wilmington. And we've been there since October of last year, end of October last year.
Nice. That's awesome. So after college, what was kind of the journey, the process to landing your first job in the financial, corporate America sector?
So it kind of goes back a little further than that, actually. When in college, one of my fraternity brothers, I was in the Delta Chi fraternity. One of my fraternity brothers had this guy contact him on Craigslist, and he was new to the area and he was looking for a place to live, and they had an extra bedroom, and his name was Luke Bruin. So Luke moved in, quickly became friends with the group. Turns out his dad owned an accounting bookkeeping company in town in Wilmington. So Luke and his brother ended up working for his dad at the bookkeeping company. And when I was graduating, I did an internship with them. That was a free internship, wasn't getting paid. I did that for like 6 months, and then when I graduated, they offered me a full-time job. So I worked there for a year, and then when Danielle graduated a year after I did, she basically a week after graduation moved up to New York City and took a job with a wine company that she was interning with. So at that point, I said, all right, well, I'm going to quit my job in Wilmington, and I'm going to look for a job up in Manhattan. And I ended up landing a job at W.R. Berkley Insurance. And at the time, it was on Wall Street. It was on 14 Wall, which I thought was cool. I was like, when else in my life am I ever going to be able to say that I worked on Wall Street in Manhattan? Yeah. But, so I worked there for 2 years. The office ended up relocating to Midtown, and they're still there today. But yeah, I started looking for a job there and got that job, and I started as a staff accountant, entry-level accountant, and I moved up to senior accountant and then accounting manager, and then I was promoted to assistant vice president.
Wow. And within 2 years? No.
That was over 8.5 years.
Oh, okay.
Because I worked for the same company. Yeah, 2 years in Manhattan and then 6.5 years in Charlotte. And, so I was working remotely before it was cool.
Oh,
yeah, with COVID, so I was working remotely down in Charlotte for the company in Manhattan. And,
okay.
And so I was there for 8.5 years before I quit.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the pay must have been pretty decent. I mean,
it was okay.
Throwing any figures out there, but
I got nothing to hide. I was making like a little over $100,000 a year, plus like maybe $30,000-$40,000 in bonuses. So, I mean, it wasn't bad pay by any means. I mean, by any stretch. But then, as you start to meet like new people and see what their skills are and how much money they're making, and you have those conversations with people, and then there was just like this lack of fulfillment that I was having, and I was like, not only am I working my ass off and only getting paid 6 figures a year, but $100,000 nowadays is not a lot of money. I mean, after taxes too, what are you walking away with? 65?
Yeah.
At best.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, it didn't feel like fulfilled. I was like, every job I've ever had, I was always the star employee. Like I was a 5-star employee. I pushed for it because like I had goals. I wanted to accomplish things. Like I wanted to be somebody.
Yeah.
And my somebody at that time was like, I wanted to be the CFO of my company by the time I was 35. Like that was my goal.
Wow.
And I got promoted to assistant vice president when I was 28.
Oh, so
I was like, okay, I think I can achieve this because like AVP goes to, either vice president and then vice president to senior vice president. And then, kind of however your organization structures it, right? It kind of really depends on how big it is. But, I was like, I feel like I'm on track. I feel like I got a really good shot. And if it wasn't CFO of my company, maybe it was a different subsidiary of W.R. Berkley. But, I had my goals and my aspirations pretty high to achieve that. And when I got promoted to assistant vice president, I got a 3% raise. And I'm sitting there having dinner with my boss, and she's like, I got the best news for you. I'm promoting you to AVP. I was like, cool, yes. This is when the life-changing money starts to come, right? Like I'm gonna realize some like, 50%, 100% raise. I'm going to be making buku bucks. Like, finally, I'm not going to be struggling for money anymore. Wrong. I was like, wait a second. This Kool-Aid is not what I thought it was going to be because I got a 3% raise. And, my boss's response to that was, that doesn't ever really happen. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, this is the Kool-Aid. And I drank the Kool-Aid and I was like, man, this is how you become successful as you work your way up the corporate ladder and you try to get into that VP level as fast as you can. And I did that. And then, her response to that whole kind of statement or story was, well, your life insurance tripled because you're an officer of the company now. And I said, cool. That only helps my wife when I'm dead. Thanks. It's like,
yeah, like what the
I was like, this is not working out for me. It's not what I thought it was going to be. I drank the wrong Kool-Aid, and I come from a real estate family, and they didn't do real estate in the same regard that I do it now. Yeah. But I've always been around it my whole life, right? And that's what kind of sparked that interest, and started doing like some single family stuff, and bought my first condo, and then the condo basically pushed me down the commercial route, and 2 years later bought my first apartment complex, which was a 92 unit apartment complex.
Wow.
In August 2021. Yeah.
Wow.
And then now we're sitting 850 or so, and another call it 400 rounded up, 300
1200. 1200.
Yeah, 380 under contract or something like that. So yeah, it's going to grow pretty quickly. So we'll be at about 1,200 units, and not stopping.
Yeah. It's awesome, man.
Thanks.
So back to the condo. So was the condo like a fix and flip type deal, or?
No, I was going to be the perfect BRRRR investor. I bought, I read all the books, and I understood all that stuff. And
so the other Kool-Aid.
Yeah, the other Kool-Aid. I bought it. It was listed as a 2-1, and it really was a 3-1.5.
Okay.
And I was like, yes, like all the things they talk about on Bigger Pockets, like it's happening for me. I'm going to be the best BRRRR investor ever. And so I paid cash for that deal. But it's not because I had the money. It's because I took a line of credit against my 401k. I maxed as much as I could get out of there. I took a personal loan from American Express, and then I borrowed money from my dad. So it was like 20,000. It was like 25, and then 20,000, and then some money of my own, right, to buy this $76,000 deal. And I was like, don't worry, it's a 2-1. It's really a 3-1.5. I brought my dad with me, and I was like, this is all going to work out. It's going to appraise higher than what I paid for it. I did some light renovations to it, and then day of refinance comes along 6 months later, and it appraised for what I paid for it.
Oh.
So I got burned on the appraisal, and on the other side of the page, it said the income-based approach. And the income-based approach it appraised for what I paid, what I thought it was going to appraise for, $100,000.
Oh,
right. And I was like, well, how come we can't use this number, the income-based approach, to do the loan off of? And he goes, I just came from, the lunch meeting that I was at was with the guy, his name's Mike, with Atlantic Bay Mortgage, Mike Woodard. He's the one that kind of pushed me down this path, because he's sitting there doing the refinance loan for me. And he's like, no, Tim, only 5 units and up use the income-based approach.
Yeah.
Because this is a single-family residence, even though it's an investment property for you, it has to use the comp-based approach. And there hasn't been any sales comps in your neighborhood for 3 years, only your sale. So it has to be
for that size, that actual product.
Right. So they're like, the only comp we have is your comp. And so therefore it's going to appraise at what you paid for it. So Mike, pushed me down that path, and, because I asked the question, and he said, 5 units and up. So I found David Lindel's Multifamily Millions book.
Okay.
And I was like, I come from a finance background. Like, I'm good with numbers, clearly. And, well, not in my head, but, on a spreadsheet, I get it. But, math, addition and subtraction in my head, forget it. Like, I even pull out my calculator when I'm doing a tip still, just because I'm just like, I don't really know. Yeah. And I always screw it up. But, I read David Lindel's Multifamily Millions book, and that was just like, light bulbs, rockets going off in my head. Yeah. And so then I made the conscious decision of, commercial real estate is where I want to be. I'm just going to cut the cord with the single family stuff. So I cut the cord with the single family stuff. And I was like, okay, from now on, all I do is commercial real estate. I buy apartment complexes. That's it. And I was like, I know this is going to set me back like 18 months, 2 years, something like that. And it did, right? Because that was like the beginning of 2020, January 2020.
Okay.
And then I closed the first deal August 2021. So, 18 months or so.
Yeah, yeah.
And, so August 2021 closed my first deal. September closed my second deal. September also quit my job. October sold the house and moved back to Wilmington. In November closed on the house. And from there, just went like that.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. That's crazy.
But it wasn't an overnight success. It was, it took me 3 years of getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, reading the books, educating myself, underwriting deals, building relationships and networks and all that kind of stuff. And then I do my day job, which was not an easy day job, right? Very high stress day job. I would do that all day. And then after work, I would do like more underwriting, or I'd go to like networking events and like meet people and like build my network naturally and organically that way.
Yeah.
I did that for 3 years before I found any signs of success.
For sure. I think a lot of people look at other people's stories and think that it's like, it's all quick and it just
everyone's got the overnight success story.
Oh yeah.
Nobody sees the 3 years
that lucky cutscene.
Yeah, you're like cutscene. I'm going to do real estate. Cutscene. Close my first deal. There's like this big thing that happens in between, and it's like so much changes up here of what's possible because of who you're connected with and who you're associated with.
For sure.
So much can change in a year. I mean, just look back since we did the Porsche event, like the mastermind event that we had. That was the first time we had talked or met, and now look what you've done literally a year later, right?
Yeah. But it's really, I kind of chalk up to the same thing. It's
right.
And everybody talks about it. Everybody, the sum, you're the sum of the closest 5 people that you talk to on a regular basis or look up to, whatever it is, who you were around is
what you become.
Yeah. And exactly. It's just, that's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Thanks.
And you've done great and inspiring tons of people. It's crazy, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
That's to feel like,
Feels good. And like the only thing at the end of the day, like don't get me wrong, like the money's great, right? But like it's not everything. When you have solved like where money's coming from, life gets a lot different because you're not so focused on how do I get the most amount of money out of every transaction. It's how do I set myself up for more future success with less work. And usually when you're able to give on the money side of things, like, so for example, like we're selling a bunch of deals right now. I could hold on to them for another 6 months to a year. I could continue increasing the rents. I could do all of the things in order to make it more valuable. Mm-hmm. But then it's going to be harder for me to sell it because there's less of a value add for the next guy. Like, I made my money on this deal. I'm happy if I can sell it. I can realize these gains. I got more opportunity I can move the money into. But what that does is it sets a precipice of not trying to squeeze a rock for every drop of blood that it has. Yeah. And people congregate to you because it's a one hand wash the other situation where they know that you're reasonable, you're fair, but you're firm. Right. But like the more deals that we do together, the more money we're going to make together as a group or as a team or as within the network. I come from an Italian family in Connecticut, right? You keep the money in the family. Yeah. And the money in the family now it doesn't mean blood family. It's like, who is your network? Yeah. Right. And it's those 5 people that you surround yourself with. Like, our network, and like we do whatever we can to keep the money in the family. Right. Because it's like somebody's going to get paid for it. We might as well keep it with people that we know, like, and trust.
Yeah, for sure. And that's just how it works.
It's just how it works.
Yeah. Keep growing, keep, spreading the wealth. There's so much out there. Oh, too. That abundance mentality.
Yeah, go out on the boat next time or go for a drive, down like any waterfront property, whether it's a lake or an ocean or whatever, and just look at the sizes of those houses and all the boats that are sitting in the back. I mean, just vast amount of money out there.
Oh, yeah. More than anybody could ever make.
Oh, yeah. There's way more deals and opportunity than any one person could ever take down in 5 lifetimes.
For sure. And so we've gone through kind of your, getting into multifamily process, and we kind of glazed over through that process how you met your partner and how you guys have grown and, how that all happened.
Man, so how did I meet my partner? So my partner name is Tim Vest, and, we finally made a company together after co-GPing about $100 million in deals. We finally made a company together called Vive Equity. Stands for Vitale Invest. Yeah. Vitale Invest Equity. So Vive Equity. I met Tim during COVID in 2020. He was part of a mastermind group that I was interested in joining. And I was like, oh, your name is Tim V too. Let's go get coffee sometime because we both live in Charlotte. And, this is like fall of 2020. And, it was like, I'm interested in joining this group that you're a part of. Like, tell me more about it. I ended up meeting up with him, and I didn't really need to join the group, it turns out. Like, he was like, we were sitting there talking. He was like, dude, you're not going to learn anything that you're sitting here talking to me about that you don't already know. It's like, okay, cool. Well, that saved me like 10 grand, right? So that's nice.
Yeah.
But we just hit it off. I mean, it was the middle of COVID. Nobody's doing anything. We're sitting outside of a Starbucks near my house for 4 hours in the wintertime. And, eventually they're like, hey, you guys got to go. We're leaving. We're closing down. Because, Starbucks closed at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because nobody was out doing anything, right? So I met him. We ended up, talking for 3-4 hours during COVID, and we just kind of kept up with each other. And then, I joke about it all the time because Tim says this is funny. Is maybe a couple weeks later, 2-3 weeks, whatever later, he goes, hey, I'm driving from Charlotte down to Anderson, South Carolina to look at a deal. And I was like, oh, cool. I'm going to come with you. Pick me up. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, come pick me up. I'm going to tell my boss I'm going to take a half day. I'll come with you. And he was like, okay. So picked me up. We spent the day in the car. We went and looked at some properties. We talked, you continued to talk about deals, and we continued to talk about the journey and the path and the morals and and everything, right? So we just kind of build upon it. Then there was another stint of that, where we were looking at some deals in Fayetteville. I was like, cool, let's go together, right? So you spend a lot of time in the car together, and you start to build the relationships. And what really sealed the deal of Tim saying hey, yeah, actually, I want to work with you, Tim, is we were looking at a deal, and I said, I'm not good at numbers in my head, but I'm looking at the numbers on this spreadsheet, and I'm like, Tim, something doesn't add up. We can't do this deal. It doesn't feel right. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, Tim, it's in the numbers. I'm telling you, it doesn't feel right. Something's not right. And lo and behold, we started asking a couple more questions and prying and this, that, and the other thing. And it turns out that the numbers weren't right, and that there was something wrong with the property that wasn't represented correctly. And we ended up not doing that deal. And then Tim said, because of that was the reason why he was like, yeah, actually, let's do some deals together. So then we did, so the 92 unit apartment complex, I did not do with Tim Vest. Okay. But every deal after that, I did do with Tim Vest. So the second deal that we closed was a 32 unit in Somerville that we're actually selling in October. So we're going full cycle on that deal. But that was the one where he had the vision, and I understood the vision, and I can translate what's going on up here for him. But I was able to take all of that information and put it into a spreadsheet and make it make sense to pitch it to an investor and raise money on it. Yeah. And then he was like, boom, that's it. He's like, you are the person that I've been looking for to help me figure out how to make these deals work. Because he's like, I know they can work. I just don't know how to show other people that it works. Yeah. And that's what I'm amazing at, is I can take those things, I can put it into numbers and financial reports and, presentations and say, hey, this is what we're projecting. This is why. And these are what the returns are going to be for you. And here's why it's important for you.
Yeah. And so that was pretty easy for you coming from...
For me, yeah. Because the financial literacy side of things was super easy. So, I actually had this question on a podcast that I did earlier this week, and they were kind of talking about how you grow and change as a sponsor over time, and what that looks like when you're raising money. And I said, you know what, honestly, you build such a level of trust with your investors. You're not just somebody that provides an opportunity. You really turn into their financial advisor. Because we're doing a lot of different deals. There's a lot of different opportunities, but there's also a lot of different risks. So I know, if you were my investor, for example, I know that Christian's got, 100,000 here, 100,000 here, 100,000 here. Well, now he's got another 150,000 or 200,000, and he wants to do something with it. And I'm like, hey, Christian, let's look at the portfolio now. You have this deal, this deal, this deal, and we lay out all the risks and the rewards on all of those. I said, how about we take this money, we make a little bit more safe, secure money, instead of trying to go, bonkers, balls to walls every single time. Let's make sure this is a little more safe. We'll put this into a better class asset, something that the returns are going to be a little bit lower, but they're going to be more secure, right? So then you start to develop this relationship as almost like a personal financial advisor, because that's what you're doing. You're diversifying their money, their investors' money in your real estate portfolio.
Yeah. And that really is what the gist of it is. It's like to a T. Mm-hmm. Oh, and you kind of touched on it a bit, but it sounds like, you're the brains more or less behind the deals. So
I don't think that's a fair statement because it's really
financial brains, but he's the,
it's really a shared. It's really a shared thing. Like if you I don't know if you've read Phil Knight's book. Do you know who Phil Knight is?
No.
The shoe dog. He's the founder and creator of Nike.
Okay, no, I don't.
Read that book. It's incredible.
Okay.
But Phil Knight, he had a partner, and I can't remember what his name is right now. But like Phil Knight started the company. Everybody knows Phil Knight started Nike, right? But like he couldn't do it without his main partner, right? So it's really, in my personal opinion, same thing with like Bill Gates and the other guy, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody remembers who the other guy is, right? But they're equally important, right? It's like you can't do it all yourself. Like partnerships are vitally important, especially when you start to grow to the size that that we're at now, where you just can't do everything yourself. You just can't. Sure. It's too much.
Yeah.
So it's a joint effort. Like he'll tell me something. I'll kind of tweak it in the underwriting, but then I'll let them know like, hey, this doesn't really work, but like, what if we did this, and this, and it's really a combined effort because it's kind of the creative side in the vision, but also the financial side and like the numbers. And it's really a combined effort to really come up with a product that's presentable.
Yeah. Yeah. And not trying to take anything away from Tim. Tim, I love you. But,
yeah,
but no. Yeah. But, it's nothing to take away from him, but that you're more of the financial side, the, pen to paper, and he's definitely the more, vision and.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Seeing the full picture where you're like, do the numbers work?
Yeah, right, exactly.
And so that's usually how partnerships, kind of, you balance.
Yeah, you have it's funny, so why we get along as partners is we're both visionaries, but he's a visionary in one aspect and I'm a visionary in another, and it's important. So it's like neither side is less important than the other, but it's a yin and yang that are necessary to be successful.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Somebody has to be the yes man, and somebody has to be the...
Somebody.
No, I mean, that's how it is in every deal that I've done thus far is somebody, and it's usually me that's like, this will make some money. Get
somebody else is like, maybe not.
Yeah. Maybe, who knows, But you always have to, have that. Would you say there's any particular set of skills aside from your financial background that has helped you expand your capacity on like how much you can take on versus how much you thought you could take on originally? Is there, what has changed in your mind that you're thinking that you're capable of doing this 100 million versus when you first started your first 90, when you're talking about 1,200 pretty soon. So what changed over this last 2 years?
I mean, it's a lot of relationships really at the end of the day, right? It's like your access to debt, your access to equity, your access to other people's time, as we build out our management company and hire people to do things for us. Yeah. It gets easier and easier to wrap your head around doing those larger deals and having a bigger portfolio because I don't want to say I'm not as active in the day-to-day transactions because you're heavily involved in them, but you're only involved to the point where there needs to be a decision that only you can make. And I can make a lot of those decisions, but I can't go do the work, right? Yeah. So like the mindset has changed where it's who not how at the end of the day, right? As you hire more who's for the hows, everything gets a little bit easier and a little bit easier and a little bit easier. And whether or not you're hiring that person or you're partnering with them, like, for example, we partner with a fund and the fund writes our equity check. All right, well, we bring the deal, we bring the operations, we sign the debt, they bring the money. This is a symbiotic relationship because we can focus on what we have access to and what we're good at. Yeah. And then also not focus on the things that stress us out and that really bog us down around like capital raising, right? I mean, we raise a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but the amount of money that you can raise by somebody else that only focuses on that is exponential. So let them go do what they're good at and what they like and what they can produce on, and I'll go do this part, and together we'll make money.
For sure. It's a division of labor.
Yeah. Segregation of duties.
Who not how. Mm-hmm. That book is powerful. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy. The author isn't even...
The author's not even the author.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's extreme who not how.
Yeah, for sure. And so I guess the other question is over the years, how have you manage to create some balance, the work-life balance?
Man, I tell you, that's part of my 2023 goals is balance. So I joined GoBundance around this time last year, which is like it's a male-only mastermind, and it used to be you had to have a minimum net worth of $1 million to get in, and I think now it's $2 million to get in, minimum. And that whole group really helped me put a perspective around work-life balance because I really had none. I mean, hey, I just quit my job. I didn't know where money was coming from. I'm working my tail off to figure out a means to an end. And you got to have the time and the dedication and the mindset to go through something like that if you really want to have any level of success. To me, it's the people that do the moonlighting forever, that are going to be working so hard forever that they can't dedicate the best time of their day between 9 o'clock and 5 o'clock. It's the best time of your day to work on something because banks are open and insurance people are working and everything. So if you're working only on your business, you're going to be able to make strides towards success rather than doing it, moonlighting it and only doing, an hour or two every night for a longer period of time. I'd much rather rip the Band-Aid off, do the work and get it over with, and then enjoy long-term success because, what's the saying? It's like, live how others won't today so you can live how they can't tomorrow.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So that was the mindset with like selling the house and downgrading and taking a step back because I wanted to, live how others won't. Like once you achieve a certain level of success in your W-2 job, like most people get cushy and they stay there like the golden handcuffs. But I was like, you need to kind of sacrifice somewhere, short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people think that they're going to achieve this work-life balance early into their journey.
Oh, no. You still got to do the work.
Yeah.
It's not the case. No, it's not the case. Absolutely not. Because you got to somebody's got to do the work. Right? Do the work. And then once you acquire a certain level of wealth, then you can hire people to do the work for you and you can leverage their time in order to do it. But you still need to know what to do because you're guiding that ship, right? Yeah. So you're never going to get away from working hard, right?
No.
But in a certain point of time, you can start to work smarter by hiring out things that you've identified don't make you as much money as other things, right?
For sure.
Whether it's operations or property management or construction or whatever the thing is that you don't like that doesn't make you money and it causes stress in your life, it's a taker of energy instead of a giver of energy.
For sure.
Those are the things you need to learn how to hire other people to do so you can focus on what you're good at and what you like.
Yeah, for sure. And if you want to see that growth, you can't be focusing on, the basic processes.
No, you don't want to be doing, bookkeeper, you pay bookkeeper like $10, $15, $20 an hour, right? Yeah. But like as the owner of your business, you want to be focusing on $1,000 an hour tasks.
For
right?
sure.
$1,000 an hour tasks is $2 million salary a year. Right.
Yeah.
So if you're going to hire somebody and pay them $100,000 a year, you want to hire them to do that because it's not the role that your $2 million a year salary should do, right? And it's a lot easier for people to equate it when you talk instead of like hourly rates or, it's easier to talk about annual salaries, right? Mm-hmm. So why would I do a job that will pay me $100,000 a year when I only do jobs that pay me $2 million a year?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So with that, actually, it kind of leads into my next question is how have you been able to create these systems and processes to grow to the level that you're at now? I mean, obviously I know you have at least one bookkeeper, are you at two now?
No, just one. Well, we're getting rid of a third party company that we're using. Okay. And we went in-house with the accountant bookkeeper. That'll probably have to grow to two bookkeepers pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. We have one regional manager, we have multiple property managers, multiple maintenance guys.
Oh yeah.
Things like that is kind of a lot more, but it's hiring the people that have more skills and better skills than I do.
Yeah. And
it's scary at first when you're hiring somebody. Like at the time I was only making like $150K, I'm like, how am I going to hire somebody and pay them $100,000 a year if I'm only making $150? Right? But you're like, oh, you're good. You got $40,000 to spare. No, it doesn't work that way. No. Right? But ever since we were able to hire that person and they brought the systems and the processes and the experience that they had because they've been doing it for 20 years, mm-hmm. only at that point, I free myself up to go out and buy more deals and kind of grow it? Now I'm looking at it as, oh, okay, now we need to bring in $150,000 operations manager to be in between me and this other person so that we can focus on what's going to make our company more efficient and easier to do so that we can continue to grow and scale.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I add that person, then I will be able to grow and scale. So it's like you have to hire the person first or pay for a consultant or whatever that looks like for you. Mm-hmm. You have to outlay that money, invest that money first before you're going to see a benefit.
Okay. It makes sense because when you're in it, your head's down. And
when you're in it, you can't see the forest from the trees.
Yeah.
Right. But once you hire that person or, that consultant or whoever you're looking for, once you take a step back and you're like, oh, now that I'm not focused on all this stuff, I can focus on the bigger picture. And we actually need to divert more time to here and let this person do this thing over here.
Yeah. And so also with the scaling in mind, is there any particular deal, structure, buy box that you're looking for to continue to scale and to continue to buy more and more deals?
Yeah, I mean, basically anything now that doesn't have an on-site leasing office with and support an on-site manager and maintenance guy, I can't buy.
Yeah.
I can't manage it because our property management company only manages people that are property specific. I don't have like a floating property manager that can do a 30 unit, a 30 unit, and a 30 unit, and a 30 unit. It has to be all centralized. Now, in the future, potentially, if we continue to buy in certain markets and that becomes a reality, great. But at this time, the only thing that really makes sense for me that I can manage efficiently and make sure that I can execute on the business plan is something that's like 80, 90, 100 units and up.
Yeah. So that's what I've seen is that 100 unit number is kind of like the threshold. Yeah. That's where the numbers really start to make sense with an on-site manager.
Yeah, because an on-site manager can manage 90 units and they can also manage up to 120 units, right? Yeah. But their payroll stays the same. So on a price per unit basis, the more units that you have, the less price per unit it is because it's spread apart more doors.
Yes.
But it's a fixed cost. Like your payroll, if your payroll's 100,000, it doesn't matter if you're doing 90 units or 120. Yeah. So you want to be doing 120 because then you're getting more efficiencies.
Yep, exactly. And so is that a reason for in-housing the property management currently? I see that you guys are going back through some deals and taking over.
Yeah, it was just at a certain point in time, you get tired of being the client, right? Be the boss, not the client. Yeah. Because my employees now, they only work on my stuff. So when I say to do something, it gets done. And there's no knock on third-party management. We still use third-party management when it makes sense. But you have to understand that you're not their primary focus. Yeah. You are not their primary income driver. You are going to fit into the schedule once the priority comes to you. And I couldn't do that anymore because I wanted to be faster. I wanted to reposition these assets faster. I wanted to reduce my costs. I wanted to be able to grow and scale and have those efficiencies. And by using third parties, we weren't realizing those efficiencies. So at the end of the day, it was like, okay, if we're going to be better, if we want to continue to grow and be better than we are today, this is a necessary step for us in the right direction in order to accomplish those goals. Because what got you to 1,000 units is not going to get you to 10.
For sure. Well, you found the bottleneck.
Right.
Simple.
Yeah, the two bottlenecks were management and equity raise. So I think we got both of those figured out now. So Hopefully next time we do this, it'll be like a huge organization. Who knows? I don't know.
Hey,
everything changes. Year to year it changes.
Yeah, man. Exciting.
Yeah.
So we'll backtrack a little bit, but how did you figure out getting a fund a part of your deals?
I don't think we ever figured it out. It's just kind of, you just meet people and this person's connected to that person and that person does this and hey, I'm looking for that. And, one thing leads to another. So it wasn't like a definitive, I'm going to find a mate today, It's it's just kind of a realm of association. And now that we've worked with one fund and we have a track record with them, other funds start to become interested. And, it's like kind of doing your first real estate deal, right? It's like once you open that floodgate, the law of the first deal. What's the law of the first investor? The law of the first deal, the law of the first fund, the law of the first anything, right? Once you do the first one, the second one's so much easier.
For sure. Yeah, that makes total sense. So give us a little background. I guess, an idea of how, I mean, so this 366 unit deal, is this the biggest deal thus far?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, by far.
Yeah. So how did you kind of wrap your head around that deal? And you know, I mean, that's a lot. It's a big bite to chew.
Yeah, it's a big elephant. But, you know, again, this is why partnerships are important. And after we had toured the assets and I did the underwriting, like I couldn't wrap my head around it until the underwriting made sense. Okay, well, now the underwriting makes sense. Okay. Now we'll go look at the assets. Okay, now we love them because we saw them. We know what they can be. We've shored up underwriting. And the second part of that was, look, where's the money coming from? Once I was able to identify my fear of doing that deal and label it, that's when I could have a conversation. I mean, because I was talking to Tim Vest, basically. The plane landed, and then I drove from Charlotte back to Wilmington, and he went back to his house in Huntersville. And it was like, okay, we're doing this deal. I was like, Tim, I don't know yet. You know, it took me about 2 hours. The drive from Charlotte to Wilmington is about 3.5 hours. So it took me about 2 hours to kind of have the conversations about what I thought about the deal without the seller around, what I thought about the deal, how I was going to perform, what we were going to do, where was the money going to come from, who's going to sign the debt, et cetera and so forth. Like it was kind of working through every part of it. And then once I found what I was afraid of, I labeled it. I said, okay, if this is what I'm afraid of, how do I fix that problem? Or at least give me other options. But the second I was able to identify what I was afraid of is when I was able to come up with a solution to the problem and move forward and make the decision to do the deal.
Yeah.
But to Tim Vest's credit, he had wrapped his head around it first, and he had to kind of warm me up to it. And then once I was in it, I'm all in. Like there's no 2 feet. It's 2 feet in or out. That's it, right?
Yep.
I mean, look, that's why we sold the house and went all in on the business and so on and so forth. Because I'm a 2 feet in kind of guy. So it took me a minute to get 2 feet into it. Yeah. But then once I was there, I was like, you know what? What are we going to lose? Some money? If we lose some money, that's really going to suck. But we're not going to be homeless. We're not going to be poor. We're going to be able to do another deal. We might ruin the relationship because we weren't able to perform on the asset, but there's always more deals and there's always more opportunities, right? So I was like, okay, well, what do we got to lose? A little bit of money in a relationship? When you boil it down to that simple level and you're just like, okay, well, I can make more relationships and I can make more money, so let's do it.
Yeah.
And then you figure it out. Like once you've committed, once you're in it, you sign those paperwork, you send the earnest money deposits and the wires and things like that, and you're like, now there's no option but to succeed. Yeah. That sink or swim moment is critical in any entrepreneur's life. It's so critical. Yeah. Burn the boats, burn the ships. Yep.
Yeah. That's the key. I think that's what most people kind of take this side step and they're like, oh, well,
Yeah, they tiptoe towards it, right? And it's like, trust me, I understand people have different concerns and have different needs and whatever, right? But like at a certain point, if you never go all in, you never go all in. Like you always have this like alternative route that you can take if things go belly up. But you need to put yourself in that situation where the only way is to succeed because then you will figure it out. It's like, that movie that was made about that guy that the rock fell on his arm and it took him like 2 or 3 days to like make the decision to cut his arm off.
Yeah.
If he didn't do that, he was going to die. Right? Full stop.
Yeah.
So, like, you got to put yourself in that situation. Am I going to cut my arm off, which is, call that your W-2 job and the golden handcuffs? Or am I going to stay with this W-2 job and die that way? Right? Or am I going to go do something else? Right? So, like, you need that level of intensity, in my opinion, for somebody to be fully committed and all in.
And that conviction. I mean, because the thing is people, they don't know when it's actually sinking. Mm-hmm. There's signs that it might sink. There's signs that it's not, it's not this smooth, ocean that we're sailing across. And it's like, all of a sudden you hit some rough waters and it's like running back.
What's that saying? It's calm seas never made an experienced sailor. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah. That's how it works, man.
Yeah.
You go out there and you look for the challenge. I mean, that's the premise of
problem solving.
Everyone's success.
Yeah.
Like that's
what's that? Elon Musk said, you get paid in proportion equal to the size of the problem you solve.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%, man.
Yeah.
And you can see where he's taking with, going on with that. Oh,
Papa Musk.
Yeah, something's, what would you say? Something slight.
Yeah.
let's get like something, kind of like in spirits of running away back to a, cozy, comfortable job. What was a time when you felt like, I mean, everyone has that in their journey where they're like, can I even do this? Is this the right path? Like, where you maybe second guess yourself, there was something going on?
Yeah, so I think, for me to translate is essentially, at what point in time did I almost quit? And there was a time, it was May of 2021, the end of May, beginning of June. I was invited into a deal to raise money on and be part of the due diligence team and, be involved in the deal. And I was like, this is it. This is my big break. I'm going to get into my first deal. And, I took the day off from work. I helped lead a team doing the due diligence. I had raised a couple $100,000. I flew to Miami to go meet with those investors just to make sure that they were comfortable and that we were going to move forward. And then I get a phone call from the main sponsor and he goes, hey, man, sorry, we don't need you anymore. And you're out. Right. And I was like, well, what about, what do I get compensated for taking my time off of work and helping you do due diligence? And I already raised $400,000. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Yeah. And he was like, sorry, man, I don't know what to tell you. And then I had the realization of just like, am I in the wrong industry? Am I not meant to, is this a sign from whatever you believe in that this is not what you're supposed to be doing? And I had that moment. It was like May or June, somewhere around that time frame. Yeah. And I almost quit, and then, that like image of people where there's like, there's two guys digging, and if you dug one more time, you get the diamonds. Well, yeah. So I took a week off. Right after that happened, I took a week off. I vented. I went and had fun. I just did other things besides real estate. And at the end of the week, I'm sitting there talking with my wife, and she's like, you didn't come this far just to come this far. It's like, fuck, you're right. I can't quit. Like, I just worked for 2 years building these relationships, and like I got my first inkling of possibility of success. I can't quit now. Like, it's right there. It's about to happen. I can feel it, right? Yeah. And then, on my birthday, July 30th, the sponsors called me and they're like, hey, man, we got a birthday present for you. And I was like, cool. What's up, dude? He goes, we're going to give you 8% equity in this 92-unit deal to do it with us. And you're going to do the asset management. And, I know that I had done a lot of stuff for them as like favors and stuff. And they're like, this is the best way that we could ever repay you for everything that you've ever done for us. They're like, please take this. Let us help you get into the first deal. And that's how I closed. We closed on the 92. I didn't really do much to close it, but I was invited into the team, and it doesn't matter how much I did or didn't do. No. I led the property management calls and the construction and all that stuff. And that was the first deal, and then the second deal, and then the third deal happened. And I was like, man, if I had quit when most people would kind of wrap up shop and call it a day, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I thank God for my blessings of now just being hard headed and never giving up.
That's the premise, right? I mean, that's what everyone talks about. That's the secret. I just never gave up.
There's one of my favorite sayings ever is opportunity gets tired of persistence.
You'll wear it down, dude. Huh? You'll wear it down. Yeah, right. Until it just gives in, and then you win all of a sudden. Right. Like 2 months later, you get that call, and it's like, okay. Like, I'm in the game. You put me in the game, coach. Yeah, dude. Right. It's crazy. It's awesome. Because everybody has that point. A lot of times we don't talk about it a ton,
But I can say the same thing about you too, though. I mean, when we first met, you were doing a couple deals. You were going to do this property management stuff. And then, we went to the mastermind event. We talked. You got introduced to a boatload of people that were like amazing individuals. And then you did, a couple deals that didn't end up working out maybe in your favor, like the way that they were supposed to work out. But it was a lesson, right? There were lessons learned. And those lessons learned guided you towards relationships and other people in your network that might be a better suit for you to help you do things. And now look at you. Now you guys are doing deals left and right? I mean, you did one, wrapping up another, got another under contract. Like, that's that start of that hockey stick growth. And everybody, if you could take a lesson from Christian, is don't give up. Continue to network. And things don't go your way, you don't give up, right? I mean, it's a common theme where everyone that has some level of success has a similar story that way. And it's the people that never persist after that point that aren't sitting on this podcast. Yeah. Right? It's those that do continue to persist when things get hard, do get an opportunity to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Man. So, I mean, moving forward in the future, I mean, what are you looking for moving forward in the marketplace? I mean, I know there's a lot going on. Interest rates are kind of all over the place. Everyone's kind of scared. I mean, and then you lock down a, 360 plus unit deal. What is your mindset, over the next 12, 24 months?
My theory behind underwriting deals is underwriting real estate deals is like algebra, right?
Okay.
In algebra, you're solving for X. In my world, my algebra is solving for investor returns.
Okay.
Right. So that's my X. And there's a lot of different levers that you can pull in order to get to those returns. And, it's a combination of, cap rates and purchase price and debt terms and equity splits and preferred returns and fees and blah, 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 blah. Everything under the sun is a lever that you can pull in order to get to a certain level of returns for your investors. And my theory behind that is as long as you continue to solve for your investor returns, we continue to buy deals. So the pricing might change, the price per door might change, the insurance costs might change, the equity splits might change, or they might not. But it's just, what are you willing to give up in order to do another deal if you want to do this deal that badly, right? And I have a certain level of standards that I must achieve on my deals as a personal level. And if I don't achieve those level of returns or those equity splits or whatever, I'm do the deal. Yeah. And that's fine, right? And then, people can sell property. There's a lot of property for sale. There's very few deals. And that's because everyone's buy box and expectation of returns are going to be a little different. So you could show one deal to 10 guys and you're going to get 10 different answers of if it's a good deal or bad deal or mediocre.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And so you just sticking with your guns. I mean, pretty much that's the formula for success moving forward is if it checks this box, then we're doing it. And
that's it. If it checks this box, we do it.
No matter what.
That's it. It's
awesome.
So my company, before we started Vive Equity, my company name was Upside Capital.
Yeah.
And I got that inspired by that name from Sam Zell. The late Sam Zell, who recently passed away. I was reading his book, Am I Being Too Subtle? It was 5:30 in the morning. I'm reading his book. And Sam Zell simplifies the investment thesis. And he goes, everyone overcomplicates investing. And I love oversimplifying things. Because if I can oversimplify something, it enables my 5-year-old brain to comprehend it and be able to move forward with something. So the faster I can oversimplify something, the better. And he goes, if the downside can be measured and mitigated, and the upside is exponential, invest in it. Doesn't matter if it's real estate, doesn't matter if it's stocks, doesn't matter if it's a note. If your downside can be limited, mitigated, measured, you can calculate what that is. And it goes back to the example of when we put the 356 under contract. Yeah. My downside risk at the end of the day, the ultra super watered down version, right, or oversimplified version, was I'm going to lose a little bit of money and I'm going to ruin a relationship. Okay, all right. Now we're at the simple, the very base of it all, with removing all the terminology and everything else. This is the cost, the opportunity cost of this deal, money and a relationship, right? Once I was able to overcome that, then I'm able to move forward. So the upside was exponential on that deal. And the downside, sure, we're going to lose a couple $100,000 in a relationship. And that's not great, right? That's not good. No. But it's not I could lose a couple $100,000 on this deal. But if it goes right, I'm going to make a couple million. So it's better for me to do those deals because it's mitigated and measured. I know exactly what I could lose, but the upside is drastic. I mean, it's exponential. So that's where my name came from, Upside Capital.
Nice. And that's, I live by that as well. I try to build a ton of contingency into deals. My first deal with Chris, that thing just...
Thank God you did.
Went sideways. Oh, man.
It worked out, though, right? Because you had the contingencies built in there.
For sure.
And some things went your way as well. So a little bit of luck on your side never hurts.
Man, yeah, definitely scooted by a few times. But yeah. I mean, if you don't do deals with, that in mind, then yeah, you're bound to come up short.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Right. I mean, do you have anything else that you would like to tell the viewers moving forward? Somebody that's looking to get into real estate, or maybe done their first deal and they're looking to get to that 1,000 doors.
I would say the biggest thing is just you grow your network first. I mean, obviously there's some level of education that has to happen. I mean, that's your ultimate foundation. Is if you can't talk the talk and walk the walk, like you're never going to get anywhere. But you also don't get the opportunity to walk the walk unless you have a relationship that puts you there. So like your network is going to be absolutely everything, and spend as much money as you possibly can to get in the smallest room possible, because that's where the best form of relationships and value come from. If you go to a conference that's got 1,000 people in it, it's a speed dating contest, right? Hi, my name's Tim. I buy real estate. Here's my card. Thanks. Right? I mean, it goes nowhere, right? But like you go to when we did the Porsche event, there's 20 people there. Yeah. You're going to go do a life-changing event. You're going to have multiple meals together. You're going to have plenty of opportunity to sit there and talk with each other and find out what everybody's puzzle piece is. The more you can do that, the faster you're going to be able to find the puzzle piece that you need in order to be successful. Just like how Tim Vest and I found each other, we both had very valuable puzzle pieces, but we don't have the same puzzle piece. Otherwise it wouldn't work, right? I mean, so that's why it's important. So you have to identify that about yourself, identify what your value is, but also what your weaknesses are, so that you can tell people how you can help them, but also break down that vulnerability wall and tell people how you need to be helped, because only then will people know how they can help you and form partnerships and bring opportunity to the table.
Yep. That's some great advice, guys. So on that note, we'll wrap this up. Thanks again for tuning in to Retail Riches. I'm your host, Christian, and again, our amazing guest, Tim Vitale. Until next time.
Thanks.